Hey guys, today I wanted to talk about a place that is generally the focal point of many of my campaigns, about three of my campaigns. And there's about four or five other that it's been briefly brought up in or traveled to or had some component to the story. And it's called the Blacklands, and it exists in another realm different than where most of my games take place in. I usually play in the same universe or whatever when I'm doing my campaigns. And the Blacklands is a continent, and it shares a landmass with, I guess, another continent and another region. The other continent would be called the White Lands. It's connected between, I wouldn't call it a region so much, but an area called Targan. And then there's another area, another huge continent that's called Shak, and another area called the Mage's Hourglass. But all those other things, even the White Lands, is all for another story. Here I want to focus about the Blacklands. But one important thing about the Blacklands is takes into account the ocean surrounding it. As in this realm, there's two oceans, one called the Father's Ocean and the other one called the Purple Sea. And the Purple Sea is a really large ocean. I know it's called a sea, but it's more an ocean than a sea. And the Purple Sea surrounds the White Lands, Targan, Blacklands, and a small portion of Shak. And this region, the water is very toxic, and terrible sea creatures live in. And the only people that can live in these lands survive mostly off of the water that falls from the rain. Now, I know probably scientifically the water that rains should be the water it'd get from the ground. I don't know exactly the science behind that, but in my world, it rains regular water here and makes clean rivers that run into the bad oceans. So I'm not a scientist, but that's how it works in this realm. Anyways, there's different regions, and some of the regions in the regions in the Blacklands are one's called Bottom, and Bottom is a swampy lowland flat area that has lizard folk, orcs, and humans that live there. Now, these orcs and humans that live there are from the White Lands mostly. They've immigrated there, and they've started small civilizations. Now, there's the lizard folk that are very aggressive. They're tribal. Like all the lizard folk in this realm can be sustained by the poisonous water, so that the poisonous water is not a problem to them, unlike the humans and orcs. Now, on the left side, there's an area called the Trade Valley, and it's where gnolls live, and they trade with the bottom area, and they trade all the way at the top, that's called Gore Center, where mostly orcs live. And these orcs, one time, many long times ago, were also from the White Lands, but are no longer. And they trade with those orcs all the way down to Bottom. And these gnolls are kind of like the Ferengi of Star Trek. They will trade for profit and benefit and stuff, but given the chance, they definitely take advantage of you if they could. And then there's an area on the other side, the far side of the continent from Trade Valley, called the Empty, and it's a desolate, harsh area, and not many things can live there. Not many civilizations do. There's really not any civilizations, just a few pockets of a few people. Now, something that's similar between the Trade Valley and the Empty is that it's mostly all above sea level. There's a few spots that aren't, I guess, or it's just really hilly. I think for the Trade Valley is mostly what it is. It's mostly hills and stuff, where Trade Valley is mostly above the sea level, so it's hard to get ships and stuff around. So it's not convenient for sea travel. It's pretty much you have to do land travel from one end to the other kind of thing. There are a few humanoids, or humans, I guess, that live in the Empty, but they're scavenger kinds of people, and they generally do bleed into the other areas of the Blacklands. Now, in the center of the continent, there's an area called the Black Deep. It's heavily forested, and it's full of lizard folk. And they're very tribal-like lizard folk. And they often eat other humanoids or other creatures they can. There are a few rivers that will come in from the mountains around and make lakes, or run down to the bottom that will run into the ocean eventually. And that does feed the water supply they need and for the forest and stuff. But it's mostly a very dangerous place because the lizard folk have their own culture and stuff. Now above the bottom, there's an area called Gore Center, and that's where the Trade Valley attaches to the get with the bottom to trade with. And the Gore Center is a bunch of tribal type orcs that fight amongst themselves for control. At the very top of Gore Center, it connects to the Targon area, and there's something called the Targon Wall. And the Targon Wall is this huge wall of undead, and it's made by the Targon people many years ago. I don't know if it's hundreds or thousands of years. I don't think I ever picked a time, but the wall was made to prevent people to enter the Targon area. And it covers all around the Targon region, which also includes part of the Whitelands. And when trying to climb the Targon wall will cause you to be attacked by the undead. Spells will be affected. Just several bad things happen, and it makes it a really hard climb. Whenever my players have attempted the Targon wall, they've always had to be really high levels. I think the lowest level they attempted that was level 16. And led to a loss for sure. The Targon people used the Targon wall, or built the Targon wall for this long-lasting life spell that causes a purple mist to travel up from the ocean near bottom and go all the way up to the Targon wall, basically killing everybody. And as it kills people, it provides more life force for the people in Targon, and this effect only happens every so many years, though. Like, I don't know, it'd probably be every few hundred years or something, and that way, like, life can regrow every time. And the lizard folk and the gnolls generally manage to keep pockets of their society alive, where most all the other civilizations and stuff die. The lizard folk are almost all immune to the purple water, and the purple mist seems to have a similar attribute, so it doesn't seem to kill them. It's just not pleasant for them. And the gnolls would generally flee. They'd sail off somewhere else, or they would find some kind of way to hide themselves from the mist while it passed by. And the lizard folk worship a religion where their god is called Molly, and it's a god of death, but it's a kind of like a god of balance and death kind of thing. Like, it doesn't think everything should be killed, but hates undead, or the people that extend their life. Those kind of attributes are the things the religion doesn't like. And the god is often considered a female, but is actually non-gendered. And yeah, it's generally just the religion for the lizard folk there. And that's really everything about the Blacklands I can think about. Anyways, thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. Have a good one.